Hey, welcome. Today, we're diving into something that can seriously change your life by changing the way you think. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. Let's get right into it.
I want to start with a simple question. Have you ever just felt stuck? Like you're spinning your wheels and just can't seem to break out of a pattern that's holding you back?
You know the feeling, right? Some negative thought just pops into your head, and boom, that makes you feel anxious or down. Then that feeling leads you to do something you might regret later, which of course just fuels more of those negative thoughts. It's a vicious cycle for sure. And today, we're going to talk about how to break it.
So the tool we're going to be exploring is called CBT. It stands for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. But what does that actually mean?
Okay, at its heart, CBT is super hands-on. It's not about spending years digging into your past. Nope, it's all about giving you practical, real-world skills to deal with what you're facing right here, right now. And it does that by showing you the incredibly powerful link between what you think, how you feel, and what you end up doing.
Let's break down the philosophy here. First off, it's collaborative. Your therapist isn't some guru who has all the answers. Think of them more like a coach, and you're the star player, a co-therapist on your own journey. It's also practical, it's structured, and, this is a big one, it's evidence-based. This isn't just some nice idea. We're talking about decades of research that shows this stuff really works.
And right here, this is the engine behind CBT. It's called the cognitive model. It all kicks off with a situation. Could be anything. Getting a weird text, making a mistake at work, anything. But here's the key. The situation itself doesn't directly cause your feelings. Instead, it triggers automatic thoughts, your brain's instant interpretation of what just happened. It's those thoughts that create your emotional response, and then those emotions drive your behavior. The biggest takeaway? It's not the event, but your interpretation of the event that truly matters.
So if we want to change that cycle, we've got to understand it first, right? In CBT, they call this case formulation, but honestly, a much better way to think about it is like you're creating a map of your own mind.
And that's not just me being poetic. The clinical literature actually says it this way. This map becomes your roadmap for treatment. It literally shows you where you are, where the bumps in the road are, and the best way to get where you want to go.
So how do you make this roadmap? Well, it's a few key steps. You start by just listing the specific problems you're dealing with. Then you dig a little deeper to find the core beliefs you have about yourself and the world. Next, you figure out the triggers, what situations kick off that negative cycle. And finally, you connect all those dots to create a working hypothesis. Basically, a clear picture of how it all fits together.
Okay, once you have your map laid out, the next step is to start spotting the specific roadblocks on it. We call these thinking traps.
These roadblocks are those automatic thoughts we mentioned. They're the instant, gut reaction interpretations that just pop into our heads. And in the moment, man, they feel 100% true. But here's the core insight of CBT. Just because you think something, that doesn't make it a fact. The very first step is just learning to notice them.
Check this out. It's a perfect example. The situation is totally neutral. A friend cancels plans. But look at that automatic thought. It's not neutral at all. It jumps straight to this harsh personal conclusion. See the huge difference? The event is just what happened. The thought, that's the story you're telling yourself about what happened.
And these automatic thoughts, they usually fall into predictable patterns, what we call cognitive distortions, or thinking traps. For example, there's all or nothing thinking, where things are either perfect or a total failure, with no in-between. Or mind reading, where you are just sure you know someone's judging you. How about catastrophizing? That's jumping straight to the worst possible outcome. And labeling, that's a big one. You make one mistake and you think, I am a failure. Just learning to spot these patterns is a huge game changer. All right, so you've mapped your mind, you've spotted the thinking traps. What's next? Well, this is where CBT gets really active. It's time to put those thoughts to the test.
Now let's be super clear about something. This is not about forcing yourself to think positive. That's not the goal. The goal is to think accurately, to think in a more balanced way. You basically become a detective, and your thoughts are the case you're working on. They aren't facts to just accept, they're hypotheses that need to be investigated. One of the classic tools for this is the thought record. You write down the situation, then the automatic thought, and you rate how much you believe it. Then, like any good detective, you start looking for evidence against that thought. What are the facts that just don't fit? Finally,
Based on that evidence, you write a new, more balanced thought. And look at the shift here. The belief in "I'm a total failure" drops from 100% all the way down to 30%. That is incredibly powerful.
But sometimes you can't just think your way out of it. You've got to get out there and collect some real-world data. And that's where something called the behavioral experiment comes in. This is all about taking your fears and predictions and actually testing them. So you treat it just like a science experiment. Hypothesis A is your anxious prediction, what you're afraid will happen. Hypothesis B is a more realistic, likely outcome. Then you run the experiment. You actually speak up in the meeting, and you see which hypothesis the evidence supports. You'll probably find that reality is way, way kinder than your fears led you to believe.
All of these tools we're talking about, the map, the thought record, the experiments, they aren't just for a few sessions with a therapist. They're all designed to work toward a much bigger, much more empowering goal.
This really gets to the heart of it all. As the source material says so well, the goal is to prepare you for your role as your own therapist. Ultimately, CBT isn't about making you dependent on someone else. It's about giving you the skills to handle life's challenges long after your formal therapy might have ended.
So think of it like this. CBT hands you a roadmap to understand your own mind and a toolkit filled with practical skills to navigate whatever comes your way. It's really about building resilience so you can face not just today's problems, but whatever comes next with skill and with confidence.
And that brings us to one last question for you to think about. You don't have to fix everything all at once. Just start with one thing. What's one automatic thought you've had recently that you could put on trial? What's some evidence you could find against it? The journey of 1,000 miles, right? It can start with challenging just a single thought.